lot of reasonable people are not going to agree with each other. So there's really this whole new layer that parents are having to wade through basically in real time.
You know, it seems like, the situation is changing day by day. Some schools have been open for a couple of weeks, and some of them have shut down after a week or two because there are outbreaks. So are judges really having to kind of make decisions flying by the seat of their pants? Because there's really not a whole lot of precedent to go on.
Judges are human beings, and judges are not, they're not psychic, and they're not medical experts. They are human beings who do the best they can and try and figure things out as best they can. But just like us, there's no right answer to a lot of these questions, especially when we can't see the future.
So I guess the question that would, I think, come across a lot of people's minds is, even if you're in the same town and you're in a custodial situation with another parent, what the judge decides for you and your family might not be the same as the family down the block, right?
Absolutely, because the family down the block is going to have different considerations, different ages of their kids, different maybe vulnerabilities of their kids, different situations that they're sending the kids to, different needs, right? Some folks are lucky enough that they can either work from home or they don't have to work, or they can have somebody stay home. Other families don't have that luxury. So there's going to be all sorts of different variables, all sorts of different things to consider. And again, we're reasonable, good, decent parents are not going to agree with each other. And that's the worst situation for a judge, frankly, to find themselves in, because judges, by and large, don't want to be parents. And what I mean by that is they don't want to substitute their judgment for the judgment of parents who live with these kids, who love these kids, who spend every day with these children. They don't want to say, well, somehow because I am the judge, therefore I know everything. They know they don't. But that's the situation that judges and parties and lawyers are finding themselves in all the time now, all the time.
So those are the big questions, school or stay-home learning. But what about the little questions like, I don't think it's appropriate for the non-custodial parent to be having dinner parties because our children are going back and forth, and now that could infect me. Do you have any rights as a parent when it comes to the behavior of the other parent and how it might risk the lives of the children and, say, the custodial parent?
It's very hard. One of the things that you give up when you get divorced or when you split from somebody is, the right to kind of dictate their day-to-day decisions. And these are hard because you say, look, that, like you said, that affects me. But again, when you're talking about what a judge is going to be willing to do and how much a judge is going to be willing to insert themselves into somebody else's life, as long as it's within the bounds of what a reasonable person would think is appropriate, it's going to be very, very hard for a judge to say, I want to stop you from doing that. I'm going to stop you from doing dinner parties. And generally, when you're talking about custody agreements overall, they leave those sorts of day-to-day decisions to each parent. We have this overlay of this terrible virus, but at the same time, people have to be left at some level to live their lives. And I think that's how judges are ultimately coming out on this.
But I only come back at you with this. If another parent were drinking heavily on a regular basis, that is not illegal, but it is dangerous for the children to be around that parent, especially if they're going to jump in a car at some point or just to be exposed to that. So one parent would be able to say to a judge, I don't think those children should be going over there anymore because that's dangerous. So in the same sense, isn't it risky behavior in the age of COVID to be partying with other people? Isn't that sort of the same kind of risk that you're now exposing the children to?
Everything's a question of degree, right? You're never going to tell a parent, I'm sorry, you can only feed your children food that has come from the grocery store on your 2-week delivery, and you're going to wash it down with soap, and you're going to spritz it with the alcohol sanitizer. You can't micromanage people's lives that way. But on the other hand, like you said, what if you've got a parent who's bringing the kid to nightclubs? How they would get to a bouncer with the nightclub, I don't know. But, there's always this question of degree, right? We've had cases where one parent has said, well, I'm a little worried because that other parent has been sneezing or been coughing. Does that mean that they have COVID? And do I have to worry about that? So you have to, as a parent, make that decision. And it's not necessarily something a lawyer can tell you, because it's something that every parent is going to, at some level, have to judge for themselves.